Well, yes, I think it can be, because I think if we, sorry, you mentioned the death data earlier, but whether you use the Department of Health figures or the Office for National Statistics figures, the death rate, both here and across Europe, peaked in early April. And so what we know is, given the fact that it takes 14 to 21 days from infection to death, the clear message is that the virus, the new cases in the UK and Europe, peaked in the middle of March. So the level of infection now, the number of new cases is in fact very low. So we can realistically think about gradually beginning to unlock the economy.
Professor, in terms of the dialogue from the government, many people have been very dismayed by Gavin Williams' performance, Michael Gove and others who basically refusing to even enter into any dialogue about the end of the lockdown or the staging of the end of that lockdown as well. What do you think the government should be doing in terms of keeping the public on side as opposed to what it is doing at the moment?
Well, I feel like most people do, very sympathetic for government ministers, because they're put in a completely unprecedented situation. And, they're bound to make mistakes. So, whichever government it is and whichever country you're in, they're all going to make mistakes in these circumstances. But I do feel increasingly the government does need to give a bit of a lead. It doesn't need to come out with a detailed plan. But it needs to give the population hope that the British population, the British people have behaved very responsibly, very sensibly. For example, the week before legal lockdown came in, it was a voluntary one, and most people complied with that. Over 90% complied voluntarily. And so I think the government now does need to start levelling with the voters and giving some indication of what their thinking is.
But haven't they straitjacketed themselves? They've come up with these 5 criteria by which they have to pass or think that are achievable in order to start the end of the lockdown, so to speak. And one of them is the steady supply of PPE and facilities that the National Health Service needs. And clearly Matt Hancock is getting nowhere near on the testing. PPE is becoming quite a saga and quite a tragic one as well for many frontline workers as well. They've straitjacketed themselves by not being able to provide what they said they were going to provide into not being able to announce a lockdown for the foreseeable future, haven't they?
Well, I think, governments often set targets when they think they can be met. I remember this is years ago when there was a debate about whether Britain should join the euro currency. And there were a number of tests, and they were deliberately set to make sure we couldn't pass them. Now, of these 5 tests, by early middle of May, 4 of them will be passed very, very easily. And you've hit on the one where there is indeed a question mark about the supply of personal protective equipment. But surely by the middle of May, in 3 weeks' time, it can be. There must be some increase in supply, and that one could be finessed by the politicians, because I say that the other 4 that they've set within 3 or 4 weeks' time will be met very, very comfortably.
Professor, very briefly, I see here the green phase of the traffic light system you propose begins June 13th. We just heard today that Germany has canceled Oktoberfest. How do you reconcile those different timelines, especially when Germany has been so much more aggressive on testing?
Well, I think the last thing that we think should be opened, and maybe we've revised our thinking slightly, that it's clear that mass gatherings are a major way of spreading the virus. So banning the Oktoberfest is quite right. And I think on reflection, I think we'd probably have to say that opening, say, the Premier League football to spectators will simply have to wait until the autumn. And that's a revision we'd make to our traffic light strategy.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.